Hi, Jakob. Nice to see you've sent us more essays. Let's take a look at this. I know you are concerned about the length and the size. I see here, how many paragraphs? 5 paragraphs. All right. I don't know why you chose to do 5 paragraphs. You should have just stuck to 4, with one body paragraph talking about the reasons for the rise in pollution and one paragraph talking about the reasons, or rather the solutions for pollution. Okay. You just need to mention 2 reasons why and why you think those are reasons, and 2 solutions for the problem and why you think they would solve the problem. So we'll look at why you decided to do 5 paragraphs. It's a long essay. Let me just do a word count here. Yeah, it's 413 words, so that's pretty long. Let's see what you could have cut out. Let's see what you could have done to to kind of save some time. All right, let's see what you said. Today, the world is increasingly facing environmental threats from cars, waste, etc., most importantly in regions of dense population. This is mainly due to rising consumption of goods packed in plastic and car ownership, but also because of a lack of public transport, singular. This is will discuss the reasons for this development and show ways to counteract it, referring to already existing examples of possible solutions in environmental sciences. Okay, fine. Here you talked about 3 reasons. So, like I said, 2 would be more than enough because it says reasons. All right. And so as long as you provide at least 2, you're fine. Let's see what you did. As a result of increasing incomes in Europe, but also other places like Asia or Africa over the last decades, people can increasingly afford to buy products. This development has led, this is the wrong spelling of lead. You're talking about the metal here. What you want is LED. This has led to more waste because, excuse me, more products are transported over long distances and are packed mostly in plastic bags before they are offered in supermarkets. As consumption rises continuously, the amount of plastic waste that is often left in nature, get rid of the, does so too. Okay, another important factor contributing to pollution is the rising number of automobiles. While in the past, you didn't need a comma here. While in the past, families only had the maximum 1 car, nowadays more and more families possess enough money to finance 2 or even more cars. This is also related to a lack in public transport in many cities. Okay. All right, let's see what happened. You know what happened here? You spent, I think, a lot of time, uh, maybe not. All right. I'm just trying to think of how you could have economized and maybe shortened this a little bit. Um, I wouldn't have talked about public transport here, all right, because it's a statement that you just kind of mentioned. You never really support it. Um, I think what would have made more sense is if you had said that these increasing numbers of automobiles are creating more CO2 in the environment, and this is leading to, the greenhouse effect and so forth. So that would have made sense. But this thing about public transport to me, it just seems to be kind of out of left field, so I would not have included it, okay? Um, but like I said, my goal was to help you economize words. Before I try to do that, though, let me also continue with the rest of the essay and see what you said. To reduce the amount of plastic and other kinds of waste that lead to pollution, products could be increasingly sold in a loose form, giving people an opportunity to use more sustainable forms of containers and bags. Okay, you could have gotten rid of this. Check it out. You didn't need to say all this, okay? There are many examples of communities where shops offer this kind of packaging, leading to a considerably lower amount of waste and pollution. Furthermore, more public bins could be built to give people a possibility to get rid of their plastic waste in a regulated way instead of leaving it on the street. So all of this was not necessary. All right. What you could have done instead is, first of all, start the paragraph with, despite the problems mentioned above, there are solutions that are currently in place that could help reduce the issue. And then start to reduce the amount of products could be increasingly sold in a loose form, giving people an opportunity to use more sustainable containers and bags. And then this would effectively lower the amount of plastic that is thrown away or burned or just, sitting in landfills. Okay? And then you're done. Then you can move on to your second solution. Okay? So all this could have been eliminated. Then, secondly, and then I would have made this one paragraph, okay? Because you've had this blanket statement, you've had this lovely topic sentence that says that, despite the fact that there are problems, there are some solutions to these problems, okay? So that's your central idea, all right? That this is my solutions paragraph. Here's my solution to the plastic issue, and then check out my solution to the car issue, okay? So it's still considered one central idea in the paragraph. Okay? It's just a two-pronged solution. I mean, you have two problems, you have two solutions. So let's continue and see what you said. Secondly, in order to minimize, excuse me for the cough, I don't know what's wrong with me today. Secondly, in order to minimize air pollution caused by cars, car ownership could be made more expensive by increasing taxes on fuel or car ownership itself. Additionally, and even more importantly, public transport has to become more competitive to car usage. More competitive, I guess so. In Norway, for example, there are several communities, no comma, where car ownership was reduced by 50% over 10 years after introducing public transport, singular, paid only by taxes. This was associated with an important improvement of air quality. Okay. Yeah, that's good. Again, I think you maybe could have focused just on the one solution, okay, like this whole increasing taxes thing. And then you could have said that what you could have done is then say these taxes could then be used to fund a public transport system, as is the case in Norway, where they have effectively reduced their pollution by 50% over 10 years. Okay, so this again would have economized. You're developing, and that's wonderful. Okay, so you're developing this topic, and it's nicely done, really, but it's not going to do you any good if you don't have enough time to do this. Okay, so remember what I said about having your solutions just in one paragraph. Say what the solution is, and then explain why it's a solution, how it would solve the problem. Okay, and then move on to the next solution, do exactly the same thing, but don't you don't have to go overboard with it. So that's how I would recommend doing this. So do you need two problems and two solutions? Yes, absolutely, because it asks you very clearly what are the reasons and what are some solutions. So as long as you see that plural, it means you have to include at least two. Two is, I think, plenty. Honestly, I say at least two, but I mean, I'm not trying to imply that you need three. I think two is enough, provided that you develop them well. Okay. And I think like I said, I think you could have consolidated some of this and made it a really solid essay, and that would have saved you a ton of time. So, to conclude from the examples given, there are many ways to deal with different challenges of pollution. In the future, since more and more people will be able to consume products, more pollution will potentially occur. Therefore, we have to apply mechanisms in order to at least slow this process down. Beautiful. That's a great conclusion. I really liked it. Anyway, so that's my feedback on how you could have economized with your time. I hope you can try to apply some of these. I'd actually like to see what you do in another problem and solution essay. I know there isn't one I don't think at least there's one in this particular package, but I hope that you can try to apply this, okay? All right, let's move on. I'm going to cough for a second, and then we'll look at your car bar chart. Okay, so the bar chart shows the sale rates for automobiles of 3 different brands in 9 different countries in Europe in 2018. Overall, there was a huge variance among the sale, not sell, S-A-L-E, numbers for these brands, except for Hungary, where they were bought in similar quantities. All right, that's okay. Okay, cars from Ford were mostly sold in Holland and Hungary with 130,000 machines in both countries. All right, why are we talking about this? Let's check here. Why are we talking about Holland and Hungary, and why are we talking about Ford? Holland, Hungary. All right, because that's probably where the most cars were sold. Fine. The lowest sale, S-A-L-E rates, no, the lowest sales were observed in Italy and Germany with only approximately 10,000. All right, does that mean each? Does that mean combined? You have to explain that, okay? 10,000. Ford. Okay, fine. While in France and the UK, still 100,000 cars were sold in 2018. Numbers for other countries were between 15 and 80,000. These countries were Poland, Ireland, and Belgium. All right, I like the way you did that. That was smart. So you talked about the highest, you talked about the lowest, and you said, the rest of these countries were in between this. So that's fine. That's a good way to do this. All right. Cars of the brand Audi were mostly bought in Germany and Hungary with around 120,000 exemplars. That's a strange word. It's just not natural. That's all. Okay. It's not really task one vocabulary. The lowest sales, SALES, for Audis were in Belgium, Italy, and the UK with only 10,000 cars in each country. In the remaining, not resting, in the remaining 4 countries, Ireland, Holland, Poland, and France, numbers were between roughly 25 and 75,000. Last but not least, BMW sold most of its cars in Germany, Hungary, and France, as, careful you're typing, as well as Ireland, 120, careful, make sure you put 1,000, all right, respectively, while in Belgium, less than 10,000 cars of this brand were bought. Car sales were between 75,000 in Poland and Holland, and 80,000 in the UK and Italy, respectively. Okay. Let's see. How long was this? It was long. It was definitely over 220 words, I would say. Yep, 221. Wow, I'm good. Okay. So, you went into a lot of detail. You included pretty much every piece of information. But guess what? I didn't really want you to. I like what you did here, where you said, you use this range. That was a great way to do this. I always encourage students to do this when they have this much data. You had a lot of data here. You had 27 pieces. So when you have so much, you cannot and you should not include it all. There was a point where you kind of did. Like when you got into this paragraph, I kind of feel like you talked about absolutely everything. Now, let me tell you why that's a problem. It's a problem because you didn't include something that you should have included. Okay, you were so busy focusing on the individual cars and the individual car companies that what you failed to talk about was this figure, 400,000, just over 300,000. In other words, you failed to talk about the totals. That's the whole reason why they have placed this information in a stacked bar chart. That's what these are called. This is a stacked bar chart. What they could have done is they could have had 3 bars, 1, 2, 3 for France, 3 bars, 1, 2, 3 side by side for each of these countries. And then your organization would have made sense. But the whole reason why they have created this stacked bar chart with one car company above the other is because what we're really interested here is the total. Okay, so what you should have done here is you should have spent a paragraph talking about the totals first. So you should have talked about Hungary, you should have talked about France, you should have talked about Belgium, and then, actually, you know what? You don't want you to have this. You could have talked about Hungary and France, then together Belgium and Italy, and then really quickly just talk about the rest of these 4 totals, or 5, whatever that is. Okay? That would be a nice brief paragraph. Then you would have to talk briefly about the car sales of each company across the board. It's a lot easier than it sounds. Let me tell you what I mean. So take a look at BMW. BMW sold roughly 100,000 cars in all the countries except for Belgium, where it sold around 10,000. Okay, so when you say roughly, I'm fine. I mean, this is like 110, 120. This is maybe like 80. So I'm accurate. Okay, and you can see that I have gotten through the BMW sales in just one sentence. Okay, and then you could say there was considerable variation with Ford. The most Ford cars were sold in Hungary and Holland. The least were, you could say what you think that number looks like. You can probably figure it out. The least were sold in Germany and Ireland with around 10,000 or 20,000, whatever that number is. And in the remaining countries, I don't know, a range between this and this were sold. Done. And then you do the same thing for Audi. That's it. Okay? So brief. I mean, you really went into a lot of detail at some point. Where was it? So that's how I would have done this. But I do think it's very important to talk about the totals, okay? Especially this guy right here. I mean, all of them, not just this guy right here, like Hungary or France, but all of them really. You needed to spend a paragraph talking about that. That's the whole reason why they've done this chart like this, okay? So go ahead and fix these, and let's see another set of work for you, Jakob, okay? All right, good luck.